All right, let's talk about something that drives so many of us absolutely mad. Why do men come back after no contact? You've been there. You did the hard thing. You walked away. Maybe you initiated no contact. Maybe he ghosted you. Either way, weeks go by, maybe months. You're doing your thing, healing, trying to move on. Then suddenly you're like, hey, how have you been? Let's get honest for a second. You're probably here because a guy disappeared. He stopped calling, stopped texting, or slowly faded into the background like a scene at the end of a movie that never really had a proper ending. And maybe, just maybe, you started to move on. You cried, you journaled, you went for long walks, listening to sad playlists, pretending you were in a music video. You did the work. Then just as you're starting to breathe again, boom, he reappears out of nowhere, right? It's like he has a sixth sense that you're no longer sitting by your phone. He sends something casual, not too deep, nothing accountable, just a, hey, been thinking about you. How have you been? Now your heart is racing, your stomach's in knots, and part of you is thinking, why now? Let me break this down in a way that's going to save you a lot of time and emotional energy. He didn't come back because he suddenly realized you're the one. He came back because something shifted, and it has everything to do with you. When you go no contact, whether by choice or because he disappeared, you remove something critical from his life, your presence. See, here's what most people never talk about. When you're constantly available, when you're liking his posts, responding to his half-hearted messages, showing up for him emotionally, even when he's giving you scraps, he doesn't have to feel the weight of losing you. You're still there, just in a more polite, less demanding form. But the moment you stop, when you really stop, no checking his stories, no replying to the late night you up texts, no passive hope hiding in your silence, that's when he starts to feel something he didn't expect, discomfort. Men are incredibly good at compartmentalizing. They can go off and do their thing, assume you're just around, and think they'll circle back when it's convenient. But when you go quiet, it creates a gap. And humans hate emotional gaps. Suddenly, the dynamic is broken. You're not reaching out. You're not orbiting his world. You're no longer feeding the part of his ego that got used to being needed, wanted, chased. And in that space, something curious happens. He starts asking questions. Did she meet someone? Was I really not that important to her? How can she just move on like that? The truth is, many men return not because they're ready to offer more, but because they're startled by your detachment. They don't miss the relationship as much as they miss the attention. And when they're alone on a Thursday night, feeling bored or nostalgic or slightly insecure, your silence gets loud. He's not necessarily back with clarity, he's back with confusion. He wants to feel wanted again. He wants to see if he still has a place in your life. And if you respond, even kindly, you've just told him, yes, you do. But here's the truth bomb. Missing you isn't the same as valuing you. Someone can miss you and still not know how to love you. Someone can miss you and still not show up for you in the way you deserve. So yes, he came back, but not necessarily because he saw the light. He came back because he felt the void. And what created that void? Your absence. You see, silence is powerful. It's not passive. It's not weakness. It's a choice. It says, I will not pour into someone who is not pouring into me. And when you made that choice, when you didn't reach out, when you let the space stay open, he felt the full weight of your value. Not because you reminded him with words, but because you withdrew your energy. And that's the moment everything shifted. So if he's back, be clear-eyed. Don't get swept up in the romance of it. Ask yourself, is he here because he actually sees my worth now, or because he simply misses the comfort of me? Because there's a big difference between someone who wants you back and someone who finally knows how to treat you right. Remember, he's not the prize for returning. You are the prize for walking away. Let's talk about something most people don't fully understand until they've lived it. When you pull away, when you go silent, not to play games, but to truly disconnect from someone who wasn't showing up for you, you instantly become more valuable. Why? Because access equals familiarity, and familiarity kills mystery. And mystery, not manipulation, not games, not pretending to be someone you're not, is what keeps desire alive. When a guy knows that no matter what he does, no matter how little effort he puts in, he still has a place in your inbox, your life, your thoughts. He doesn't feel urgency. He doesn't feel inspired to step up because he already has you. At least that's how it feels to him. You see, people chase what they value, but they don't value what they can get without effort. Now, I'm not saying you need to act cold or detached just to prove a point. That's performative and people see right through it. What I am saying is when you stop overgiving, when you stop showing up like someone desperate for a place in his world, you send a loud, unspoken message, my energy is not free. And that's when things start to shift. You're no longer easy to reach. You're no longer handing out pieces of your heart just because he remembered to text you once this week. And the moment you do that, you break a pattern. You disrupt the comfort he's been living in. Because while you were always there, always emotionally available, always responding with kindness, even when he didn't deserve it, he took it for granted. Not necessarily because he's a bad person, but because people get lazy when there are no consequences. Let's be honest, we've all done it. When something or someone is always there, it fades into the background. You stop appreciating it, you stop working for it, and then one day it's gone and you suddenly feel the absence. And that is when you remember the value. This is what happens when you go no contact. You remove access. And when access is removed, value increases, not because you're suddenly doing something magical, but because you're no longer making yourself available for crime. Now, here's the beautiful part. When a man feels that shift, when he realizes he no longer has access to your time, attention, or emotional investment, he starts to question himself. He starts wondering, did I misjudge her feelings? Why isn't she reaching out anymore? Is she over me? Is she with someone else? And that inner dialogue is what creates movement, not always action, but thought, emotional friction, the kind that gets him out of his comfort zone. But notice that friction wasn't created by a dramatic confrontation or a 2 a.m. EM text demanding answers. It wasn't because you posted a thirst trap with a passive-aggressive caption. It was created by one thing: you reclaiming your energy. You stopped handing over your presence to someone who wasn't earning it. That shift, that quiet power is what creates your value. And again, this isn't about pretending to be hard to get. That's not sustainable. This is about actually becoming harder to get. Not because you're playing a part, but because you genuinely know your worth now. You don't chase breadcrumbs when you know you deserve the whole meal. You don't sit around wondering when he'll text when you're busy building a life that excites you. You don't check to see if he's viewed your story when you stop centering your world around whether or not he shows up in it. You've shifted your focus from him to you. And that shift, that's everything. Because when he comes back, and often he will, it won't be because you won some game. It'll be because your distance made him feel something he wasn't expecting. The weight of losing access to a woman who was once so readily available. But let me be really clear. Just because he comes back doesn't mean he's changed. It doesn't mean he's suddenly ready. It doesn't mean he deserves a second shot. What it does mean is that you've created enough emotional distance for him to start seeing your value clearly. And now the power is in your hands. You get to decide what happens next. You get to ask the question, is he drawn to me now because I've pulled away, or because he's actually ready to give me something real? Either way, remember this. The moment you stop overgiving, the moment you take back your energy, you start showing up like a woman who knows what she brings to the table. And that's the woman people don't forget. That's the woman they come back for. Not because she played games, but because she finally stopped playing small. Let's cut through the noise for a second, because this point gets so misunderstood. Going no contact is not a strategy to manipulate someone into chasing you. If you're doing it as some clever psychological move to make him miss you, you've already missed the point. True no contact only works, and more importantly, only heals, when you do it for you. Not to provoke him, not to punish him, not to sit back like a Bond villain counting the days until he breaks down and calls. No contact is not revenge. It's not silent treatment. It's not a ploy to test how much he cares. It's a boundary. It's saying, you don't get to have space in my life when you're not showing up with clarity, consistency, and care. Full stop. Because when someone's giving you confusion, inconsistency, hot and cold energy, they're not confused about you. They're confused about themselves. And until they figure that out, any communication you keep open is just another place for them to dump that confusion. And that drains you. It messes with your head. One day he's warm. The next day he's distant. One minute he's complimenting you. The next he's unreadable. You're left interpreting emojis, analyzing silence, and second guessing your own instincts. That's not connection. That's chaos. And you don't need more chaos. You need clarity. So when you go no contact, real no contact, it's not about trying to change him. It's about protecting yourself. It's you stepping out of the spin cycle and saying, I deserve peace. I deserve my energy back. I deserve to stop investing in someone who isn't meeting me where I'm at. Now, here's where it gets tricky, because you might think, but I want to walk away. I want it to work. I want him to realize what he's losing. And that's totally human, but you can't force realization. You can't make someone appreciate you just by hanging on a little longer. Growth doesn't happen in proximity. It happens in absence. People don't figure things out while they're still comfortable. And you being constantly available, even in the background, is comfort. It's knowing she's still there. I can come back when I feel like it. That doesn't motivate someone to level up. It just makes them feel safe doing nothing. But when you go no contact, not coldly, not bitterly, but firmly, you remove the option of being a safety net. You show him, I don't exist in your life as a maybe. And listen, this isn't just about men. This is about you. Because the moment you stop waiting for someone to see your value and start living like you already see it for yourself, everything changes. You get your mental space back. Your heart stops living in limbo. You get off the emotional roller coaster and start building something stable inside of you. And maybe he does come back. Maybe he doesn't. But the best part is you stop needing that outcome to feel okay. You're not waiting by your phone. You're not scrolling his feed for clues. You're not hoping he has a sudden moment of epiphany, because you're no longer outsourcing your peace to his decisions. That's what real no contact is. It's not about him coming back. It's about you coming back to yourself. And sure, it might stir something in him. He might suddenly realize what he had. He might feel the gap you left, but that's not the win. The win is you didn't wait around for that to happen. You didn't dangle your worth in front of someone and beg them to choose it. You didn't put your life on pause hoping he'd catch up. You made a bold, beautiful, terrifying decision to put your energy where it belongs, on the one person you can actually change, you. So if you're sitting there wondering whether going no contact is the right move, ask yourself this. Am I at peace with the version of myself I become when I keep holding on to this? If the answer is no, then it's time. Not to get him back, not to prove anything, not to win, but because you're finally ready to stop bleeding your energy into something that doesn't give back. You're ready to stop hoping someone else gets it and start living like you get it. And that kind of self-repercussion is not quiet. It doesn't go unnoticed. It radiates. It speaks volumes. And maybe, just maybe, it's the very thing that finally shows him the version of you he wasn't ready for. But here's the secret. By the time he does, you might not want him anymore. Let's talk about something that trips people up again and again. Just because someone misses you doesn't mean they're ready to love you. Let that sink in for a second. It's flattering, right? When someone reaches back out, when they say they've been thinking about you, when they pop back into your life like some half-finished sentence and suddenly want to start talking again. And it's easy, so easy to take that as a sign he must care. He wouldn't reach out if he didn't still have feelings. Maybe he's finally ready. But let's take a step back, because feelings are one thing, action is another, and commitment, that's a whole different level. Missing someone is an emotion. Commitment is a decision. One takes very little effort. The other takes consistency, courage, and growth. So when a guy comes back after weeks or months of silence, when he resurfaces out of nowhere and tells you he's been thinking about you, don't confuse that for transformation. He may have missed you, but that doesn't mean he's equipped to show up for you. Because here's the truth. People can miss you for all the wrong reasons. They can miss how you made them feel. They can miss the comfort, the attention, the validation. The safety of knowing someone amazing was always there when they needed it. That doesn't mean they're ready to give you what you need. It just means they felt a void. And instead of doing the hard internal work to grow, they reach for the easiest way to make that discomfort stop. you. That miss you text, it might not come from realization. It might come from loneliness, from boredom, from ego. He might just want to know he still has a space in your heart without doing the work to earn it back. That's the trap, because it feels like progress. It feels like a turning point. It feels like hope. But what it actually is a test, not a test of him, a test of you. Can you hear someone say they miss you without falling for the illusion that they're ready to meet your needs now? Can you distinguish between a man who's feeling your absence and a man who's finally ready to show up fully? There's a massive difference between the two. One is driven by emotion, the other is backed by action. And here's what you've got to remember. Your job is not to bridge the gap between his feelings and his readiness. You are not the rehab center for emotionally unavailable men. If he's not doing the real work, if he's not showing up with honesty, effort, and consistency, then I miss you is just emotional sugar. It gives you a hit, a high, a rush of hope, but it crashes fast because without anything solid underneath it, it doesn't go anywhere. Now, does that mean every man who comes back is a bad guy with bad intentions? Not necessarily. Some people really do start to see clearly once they've lost you. But here's the key difference. The men who are ready don't just say they miss you. They prove it. They come back with accountability, with clarity, with plans, not just feelings. They say, here's what I now understand. Here's what I want to build with you. And here's what I'm willing to do to make that happen. No mixed signals, no vague half-effort messages, no dipping in and out of your life like it's a revolving door. So the next time a guy resurfaces, don't let the butterflies in your stomach drown out the wisdom in your gut. Ask yourself, is he missing me or just missing the attention? Is he showing up for a future or just reminiscing about the past? Is he finally ready or just restless? Your peace is not a playground. Your heart is not a holding cell until someone figures out what they want. You are not a second chance for someone who didn't value their first. So yes, he might miss you. He might even mean it. But your job isn't to respond to a feeling. Your job is to respond to a pattern. Feelings come and go, but behavior tells the truth. So if he's just giving you I miss you without changed actions, without deeper commitment, without a consistent pattern of growth, then you don't need to hold space for that. You've evolved beyond being someone's emotional safety net. And you deserve more than a man who comes back just because he misses the version of you who never stopped waiting. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, because this is the moment that catches almost everyone off guard. You go no contact, you're healing, you're growing. Maybe you're even starting to feel free again. You've stopped checking your phone every 5 minutes. You've stopped wondering if he's watching your stories, and your energy slowly but surely is returning to you. And then out of nowhere, there he is. The text, the call, the DM, some sudden just thought of you message, as if no time has passed, as if nothing ever broke, and your heart skips. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. This is where things get tricky. See, the moment he reaches back out, 1,000 emotions rush in all at once. Nostalgia, hope, doubt, maybe even guilt. Like, should I have waited longer? Should I give him another chance? And this is exactly why he's reaching out now. Not necessarily because he's done deep emotional work, not because he's transformed overnight, but because he feels the shift in you. He feels you slipping away. He senses that he's no longer in your orbit. And that, not regret, not love, not clarity, is what activates him. Let's be honest, people feel energy. And when yours is no longer focused on them, they feel that withdrawal. It's not about whether you post a selfie or go radio silent. It's about a deeper emotional detachment that they can sense without even understanding how. And that's when the chase begins. But here's what you've got to remember. The chase isn't love. The chase is ego. It's him feeling you slip through his fingers and suddenly wanting to grab hold. Not because he's ready to nurture a real relationship, but because he's used to being the one with the power, the one who gets to decide when the conversation starts and ends, the one you were always emotionally available for. And now you're not there anymore. That energy he once took for granted is gone. and that unsettles him. So he reaches out, not because he wants to build something real, but because he wants to reestablish a connection that validates him. It's not malicious. Most of the time, it's not even conscious, but it is real. And this is where your power lies, because you get to ask yourself, do I want to be desired or do I want to be chosen? Because when a man truly chooses you, not just as someone he misses, not just as someone he wants to talk to when he's lonely, but as a partner he's willing to show up for, grow with, and commit to, that shows up differently. It's not just in a text, it's in his actions. It's not vague, it's direct, it's not reactive, it's intentional. And most importantly, it doesn't come just because you walked away. It comes because he's done something different on the inside. Now, let me say something that might sting a little. Just because he comes back doesn't mean he's earned a place in your life again. The door you closed, you didn't close it out of pettiness. You didn't walk away to prove a point. You walked away because your needs weren't being met. You were tired of explaining, hoping, trying harder than he was. You were exhausted from the imbalance. And unless something has fundamentally shifted in him, opening that door again can just lead you back to the same cycle you fought so hard to leave. So before you answer that message, before you pick up that call, ask yourself, what would it cost me to go backward? Would I have to shrink again? Would I have to explain myself over and over again? Would I go back to wondering where I stand? Because if the answer to any of those questions is yes, you already know what to do. Sometimes the greatest strength is not in saying yes to someone who finally realized they miss you. It's in honoring the version of yourself who decided she was worth more. That version of you, the one who got tired of the confusion, who finally chose peace over potential, that woman built something precious, self-respect. And the thing about self-respect, it's not loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. It just quietly refuses to settle. So if he comes back, let him show you more than words. Let him show you consistency, growth, accountability, a different pattern. And if he can't, then thank yourself for having the strength to walk away before, because anyone can come back when they feel you pulling away. That's not rare, but only someone who's truly changed will return with the capacity to love you right. That's who you hold space for. That's who you give access to. Not the one who misses you when it's convenient, but the one who's ready when it counts. This is the most powerful shift of all, because it's the one that flips the entire story. And when he comes back, your job isn't to ask, is he ready now? It's to ask, am I still available for what I used to accept? That question is everything. Because if you've truly been doing the work, healing, reconnecting with your worth, rebuilding the pieces of yourself that got chipped away during the relationship, you're not the same woman he walked away from. You're different now, stronger, clearer, more self-possessed. And maybe, just maybe, what you wanted then is no longer what you want now. This is what people don't talk about enough. They focus so much on the return, on the message, on the what does it mean moment, but they skip over the most important transformation, yours. You spent time missing him, craving closure, wishing he'd reach out, but then something changed. You stopped checking your phone. You stopped planning conversations in your head. You stopped waiting for someone else's validation to tell you what you were worth. You started choosing you. And now he's back. And yes, there's a moment of temptation because it's familiar and there were good times. And there's always that part of you that wants to believe in second chances. But the real question isn't whether he deserves one. It's whether you still want what he's offering, even if it's slightly better than before. Let's be real. We all outgrow things we once thought we couldn't live without. Sometimes you're not walking away from a bad person. You're walking away from a version of yourself that tolerated things you've now outgrown. And that's a deeper kind of growth. That's evolution. So when he comes back, don't just assess him, assess you. Ask yourself, do I feel calm in this connection or anxious? Do I feel seen and valued or just wanted? Is he showing up in a way that aligns with what I want long term? Or is this another chapter in the same old story? And if you're not sure, don't rush the answer. You don't owe anyone an immediate response just because they finally reached out. You're allowed to sit with it, to observe, to listen more to your nervous system than your nostalgia. Because sometimes it's not that he hasn't changed, it's that you have. And the version of you who's standing here today, she may look at the past and say, I see why I wanted that. I even see why I waited. But I also see now that it was never enough. That realization, that's freedom. It's the moment you stop chasing closure and start trusting your clarity. You realize that you don't need someone to finally get it in order to validate your experience. You don't need them to apologize in the perfect way or come back with a perfectly packaged plan, because you're no longer available for potential. You're available for partnership. And that doesn't just mean effort. It means alignment. Do you want the same things? Do you communicate in a way that feels safe and clear? Do your values line up? Does your life feel bigger, not smaller, when he's in it? Those are the real questions. Not does he still want me, but do I still want this? And if the answer is no, that doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It doesn't mean the connection wasn't meaningful. It just means you've grown past it. You've graduated. And you don't need to re-enroll in the same emotional classroom just because the teacher finally started paying attention. You've done the work. You've rebuilt. You've recentered your life around your own peace, your own passions, your own path. So now, if someone wants access to you, it's not about whether they're interested. It's about whether they can meet you where you're at. And sometimes this is important. You don't need to hate someone to walk away. You don't need to create drama or prove a point. You just have to say, I love who I am too much now to go back to a situation that doesn't reflect that. That kind of detachment, that's not cold, it's clarity. And it's the kind of clarity that says, you're allowed to miss me, but I'm not required to return just because you remembered my worth too late. That's what happens when you've truly healed. Not only are you no longer waiting for them to come back, you're no longer needing them to. And the irony, that's the moment they usually do. But by then, you're not making your decisions from fear or loneliness or scarcity. You're making them from a place of grounded self-respect. And whether you let them back in or lovingly close the door for good, either way, you win. Because you're not choosing him anymore. You're choosing you. And that changes everything.